Week 11 rolls on here at the Overwatch League, and we're going to be heading on into the Dragons, taking on the Spark here, Jake. And if the last match showed anything, is that this week, like many others, a week of chaos where you don't quite know what to expect.
Definitely not. A lot of things could be coming out here, but I think this match should be pretty exciting. We've got explosive players on both teams in all categories, really, and thinking of the roles, thinking of the rosters. So I'm really excited to see what these teams bring out. Shanghai, in their last match in particular, their executions just look so sharp, so clean. Looked like their team play in particular was really the shining light for them as a squad. So I'm really bullish on Shanghai after seeing that match. So honestly, I think Spark going to have to be pretty impressive here to keep up with that.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, one thing we saw from the Dragons last time we saw them play is that the Dragons are just a remarkably consistent roster where they don't have to mechanically win every fight, even though they're very mechanically good, because they will just over time grind down the opposition. And it's a scary thing when you're going up against Shanghai. But now let's take a look at the starting roster. And the player I got to highlight here is DM. Looked very, very good against Happy last week.
Definitely. DM was a superstar. Not going to be coming in, it seems, for this first map, but certainly I expect at least will be a fixture as we get into the later stages. Could be an off week though for DM, given that core hitscan out of the pool for now, some of his best heroes not being featured. Could be a week that we can see more out of Lip, and we know Fleta is reliable, consistent on whatever he needs to play. So as you said, I think Shanghai, they've got a really great roster right now. Don't need to go for flashy hero plays on any one role. They rely on the team play, and they actually have a ton of superstar power to back it up, in those endgame clutch scenarios. But the same can be said about the Spark. I mean, Godsby and Adora had a great first season in their rookie season last year. Gushui and Sasin also no slouches. So both teams coming in with the same comp here, all about the shield trade right now.
Not wasting any time getting started here. IDK already down. The Dragons picking up where they left off last week. 3 quick pickoffs. And talk about players to highlight. Void on the Sigma has been a treat to watch.
Yeah, and that's just a move right there by Shanghai. Absolutely running over the Spark on this first mid-fight. Outplayed and outlasted. Fleta so patient with that ice wall. Doesn't use it at all until the enemy is in full retreat, and then just cuts out that last retreat path to isolate the enemy. Also freezing up Sasin on the Sigma, so easy kills for Lip there. Great team play by Shanghai. Well, that's a great rotation by Spark to get on the point, though.
Looking for a wave back on over. Sasin, Dragons doing far better in the poke battle here so far, and it's Sasin that's eating the brunt of it. It's a nice defense off, though. Now Bebe. Beautiful lessons on the other side. Got to be able to find a way through. 2 down immediately. Spark just able to stay alive on the point, and Sasin, great ability there to just keep himself alive.
I love that rotation from the Spark. I think we've got a very interesting series here. Shanghai's been strong, but that's exactly the sort of decisive rotation that the Spark have to do to get back on their feet after a tough mid-fight. So heads up play by them, just rushing straight to point, getting a ton of value out of it. Yes, Shanghai does have a bit of an ultimate advantage now, but it's much more difficult to leverage that when you're trying to retake point. It's going to be pretty easy for Adora to finish off his Blizzard Say to keep this fight interesting.
Particularly given the control that May offers on the point, but they don't go through the wall. In fact, Dragons just get on over. Now they drop the Blizzard. They're on Sasin. Under pressure once more, and both Sasin and IDK focused down immediately. And the Spark, they just weren't able to land an early wall there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Spark would be able to charge some ults before the fight really got underway, but Shanghai were just so aggressive and so decisive with the ultimate advantage that they had. Didn't feel like they were the attackers there. Felt like they were in total control of that fight, so it's a quick pickup for them. Both fights have been really, really quick so far. Fleta seems very ready for this rotation, but he always has to be ready for that other option, and in this case, it allows the Spark to slip through.
The other team having too much trouble getting to the point. IDK, again, getting focused super hard. Gushui dropping the early Bondo. Spark. Spark, though, getting poked down on all sides and beating Lee Gon, keeping the right side. Perhaps not for long. Stand 1 gets turned on, and the Spark suddenly, massive focus fire on the way out, and then just take control once more.
I like this from the Spark as well, taking a different look onto point. You see Fleta is worried about the possibility that they'll be coming from lower and rushing onto point, and because of that, he's not quite ready to get the disruptive ice wall to stop their rotation, so they're able to get off to the bridge, get the supercharger down in an ideal location, and holding point once again. So both teams playing the positional game very, very intelligently so far this map. I think we've got a very interesting series ahead.
It's been decisive from both teams, is what you can say about the team fights. Both teams, exquisite focus fire here thus far. Not so much great at denying entry, though, the Dragons. They'll get a very quick entry onto the point. Godsby, they'll get to the back. The Death Blossom. Lee gone out of the fight. The Spark this time far more decisive. Godsby able to get right into the back.
Oh, it's just the little things that I love so much in Overwatch. Godsby using his Wraith form just to dodge the boop from Lee Gone. Shoots one shot, instantly Wraith forms, knows that Lee Gane's going to have to boop, too scared of that Reaper, and then he instantly cancels it and drops the Death Blossom, and even Lucio can't escape without that boop, so critical. Adora looks perfectly set up for this.
This time, wall comes down early, puts Dragons in a tougher spot. Void's going to try to come out and hit the Flux. Spark, meanwhile, looking to slow it all down. Adora's Blizzard, well played. Freezes out both. Void doesn't even have a chance to go for Flux. As a result, the Spark looking to take round one.
Yeah, Adora, great positioning by him. Puts the Mei wall out just in time, isolates the Orisa, and then it's an easy Blizzard to pick up that opposing Mei and Sigma. So great work by the Spark. Just beautiful plays there. I mean, they lose mid, yes, doesn't go their way, but they're immediately back into it, rushing down lower main, an unconventional approach, but it totally works out for them, getting the retake off the back of some kills by Godsby, and then again taking a different path, going upper bridge and dropping to point once again. I love the way Spark are playing around the objective on these control points, especially when you're playing these very defensive bunker comps with the double shield, Reaper, Mei. It's all about being able to hold your ground and not being forced to run across open ground. And when Spark are able to get onto point, even though they're retaking, they're effectively becoming the defenders. It's fortunately Shanghai to be the ones trying to cross gaps, trying to get back into position, and that's not what you want to be doing on this Reaper Mei. So beautiful plays by Spark to get them that first control round.
Yeah, the Spark really aren't letting the Dragons in any form of comfort zone here either. The Dragons set up, the Spark immediately ready to knock them on down. Sauce under heavy focus fire, does not get much self-shielding that time. Both teams down the tank, 5-on-5. Void, though, look at Void. Beefy on the side, ready to poke. Dragons, though, move over to the point. The Spark trying to position for that first cap.
Yeah, Void's going to have a lot of free space to spam, though. Look at them all in this corner, taking
no.
so much AoE from the Sigma. Now the wall comes in from Fleta, enabling Lip to just carve them up.
Everyone's stuck in the corner. At some point, if you're the Spark, you just turn, look at your teammate and go, you somehow got in a really bad position here.
Yeah. I mean, with all the unique characters in Overwatch, there's always these really interesting circumstances. You trade an Orisa for a Sigma. What exactly does that mean? It's not always simple. I think in that case, you know, the Spark, they had a lot of defensive utility with the Orisa, but the poke without their own Sigma on their team was just devastating from Void on the high ground. And look at him. He's got his ult, and Sassen's only at 30.
Yeah, he's going to use that ult immediately, looking for the early Flux. Tosses him to the sky. They out of the fight. The Dragon just fearlessly move on in off the Flux. And again, decisive. I love the engages we're seeing out of both of these teams.
Yeah, I think Void is cruising potentially to lap Sassen on the ultimate charge, which is actually very, very painful. I mean, this Sig ult in the mirror match, Sig ult might be the most important ult that you have. It's the ultimate control ability against Reaper, pretty much shuts down his damage entirely, stuffs the opposing Sigma, forces Orisa to use her Fortify, pretty much does everything you want. Now Lip getting contested, but instant Blizzard from Fleta, trying to freeze Bebe, and the Coalescence is canceled.
Again, the Dragons, a great engagement, used off the Blizzard. The Spark could not get in cleanly. And the Dragons right now looking to roar back and force a round 3 if this keeps up.
They are looking mad. They're upset they lost that last round. And to be fair, I mean, that last round mostly was off the back of creative retakes coming in from unconventional angles. In this map, I just don't think the same plays are available. We've seen Spark try 2 different approaches, once down mid, once down this bottom left side. Both have been shut down with ease. So tactically, Spark needs to bring something new out.
Lip right now, looking for the sneaky Death Blossom, gonna get forced back, doesn't quite work out. Brian, make a difference here, drops the Bongo, Blizzard is out, Godsby takes down his counterbar, gets pretty far into the back. Wait though, Void is still healthy, Void is still poking from the side, and this is dangerous, such a good DPS Sigma here.
Oh, and Shanghai are committing, it looks like this fight is all over, they're about to take this second round. Void uncontested on point, just doing absolutely whatever he wants, both supports by his side, keeping him up. Shanghai, beautiful stuff in the second round here, striking back with a vengeance.
Oh man, that was deadly. Void was able to get so much space. It almost felt to a degree like it's not something you would expect from the front line, and it probably wasn't the intent, but the actual effect of that, it felt like Void told his team, hey, you guys bait out there, fall first. Just give me room to poke them all down. It'll be fine.
I think that really just speaks to the power of the Sigma ult from Void. I mean, because he has the ult, he actually just flies up onto the high ground, and it's not much of a high ground. It's not that far off the ground, but Reaper and May, I mean, it might as well be the tallest tower in the game. You're just not getting on high grounds with those heroes. So, you know, for Void, he's able to stay alive throughout the end of the fight and just farm. I think Sigma really just deals so much DPS in this mirror match. Both teams clumping up, taking a ton of AoE. The stun so effective against Reaper. The Sigma difference here is really showing. I mean, that round was all Void.
Yeah, and I mean, between the two Sigmas, there's no denying that Void has had the bigger impacts here so far. And, you know, for the Dragons, it's essentially the third DPS. Take a look at Lip and Floodham might both be down, but Void's still in the fight. They have just options. Dora gets picked off super early off the halt.
That's really painful. That's one of your most important defensive tools for this very greedy bunker comp that the Spark are running. Now Shanghai charging in to capitalize. And another mid fight goes Shanghai's way. They're so good on these mids. So aggressive, taking such great angles.
Lip getting even more aggressive, even as the rest of the team's back out. Lip goes, wait, I'm going to teleport into this wall. You can see what happens.
And just to go back to the compositions here, what Spark's running is incredibly greedy. If they can just survive for 10, 15 seconds of straight damage trade, they'll almost certainly win grinding out what Shanghai has to offer. So that gives Shanghai a small window, but in that window, Shanghai has a big advantage. The Lucio Moira enable them to get extremely aggressive. It's just a matter of finding picks in that window.
Yeah, and I mean, they're looking to the map right now. A good immortality field. BK drops the immortality field essentially to save himself. Coalescence pressure still moving in. The Dragons, again, just diving into the Spark. That was full W mouse 1, and there was no response from the Spark whatsoever.
But Bebe with 3 there in the last seconds of the fight. Somehow Bebe comes alive, gets the picks that his team couldn't. Those are actually pretty significant kills because, they're not going to get Spark a fight win here for free, but they will get them through these initial chokes, which is a very, very big deal considering they're running a Hangzhou, the Zen Bap, very greedy heroes, all long-range heroes. So this could be at least the start of a good fight for the Spark, but somebody's going to need to produce some picks, and it's Void who's going to be first to that gravitic flux.
Bebe was also able to build quite a bit towards Transcendence at the very end of that fight, so the ult charge there alone gives Spark an opportunity. They might use this Transcendence pretty aggressively here, but they're taking their time, Jake. They're not going in heavily. They're giving Void a lot of respect. No, Godspeed caught off the halt. Here comes Void over the top, uses the flux, and the Spark are just getting out-engaged.
Absolutely here. There's no real other way to describe it. I actually like that from Bebe holding the trance. He's not in the gravitic flux himself, so he actually can't protect his teammates, and by the time the flux comes out, there's not much chance for him. Gonna keep the Zen here just with the trance, too much value to get rid of, but they are gonna switch over to the Reaper. Giving up on the Hangzhou is Godspeed. I mean, I can't blame him. He didn't even have a Dragon Charge. Shows how hard he's been getting rolled by this aggressive dive, but big ultimate advantage for Shanghai, and what a disgusting wall from Fleta. That's so painful.
It's definitely difficult. They just have to use a Transcendence to get onto the point in a somewhat healthy fashion. They do take down Limp. Spark makes them happy. Transcendence, stand one though still in them. Lost Godspeed, such an engine of damage. Sort of outs here for the Dragons. They drop the beat, and again, Void, super healthy on the side, takes down his counterpart, Izayaki from the other end. And the Dragons just outflanking, out-engaging, and that's going to be it. They take map 1, and they do it in style after a rough beginning.
Yeah, I mean, pretty impressive. So Spark had some tricky moves on that first map. I was really excited after how well they made those executions work from tough situations, but those last 2 maps were steamrolls. There's no other way to put it. Shanghai in total control, absolutely dominating through those last 2 Koth rounds. And this is a map that can very easily, this is a comp rather, that can very easily transition to pretty much every map in the pool. Spark was the team that showed the first signs of wanting to get off the full rush comp, wanted to switch to a more greedy bunker with that Zen Bap backline, but it just didn't work out for them whatsoever. So that's got to be a blow to their confidence, as this is a mirror match that could very last the whole series.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the case. And the number one thing right now that the Spark have to figure out is how do you deal with Void, his Sigma so far. Absolutely impressive. They have a few more maps to figure it out. We'll be back soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renter's insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Groups. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
And by Zip Chair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
I have to say right now, you take a look at the Spark, they seem outclassed in a few different areas, but no more perhaps than the off-tank role.
Yeah, Void, just disgusting. I mean, I don't think Sasson played poorly by any means. I mean, just trade's not going his way, but it's Void who's just making it happen for his team. Always in those power positions, closing out the late fights. Knows how valuable his own life is, and you know you can see the truth of that with those gravitic fluxes, constantly winning fights for his team with only that one ultimate, and that's just so devastating. For the side of the Spark, getting rolled over by a gravitic flux just because your own off tank doesn't have it quite in time. It's a real bad feeling, gotta say.
Now, one thing we keep seeing is that Void keeps taking these wide flanks. Like, anytime you go to a wide shot of the fight, you just see Void off on his own. But Void's getting a lot done, and when you have the Sigma just sort of fearlessly flanking, is there any sort of adjustment the Spark can make here? Because it feels like they're dealing with so many threats that even if they were to overcommit to Void, something else would get them.
I think the Sigma with a double angle is really the way the hero wants to be played right now. You know, potentially if you're playing the full Reaper, May, Rush comp, everyone standing together, then you maybe want to group up a little bit more. It can be a little bit risky, get caught on your own against Reaper and May. But I love the adjustment that he goes even more extreme on those off angles when he's facing the Hangzhou, the Mei, the Bap Zen. You know, that's an incredible amount of long-range shield break. He knows that he doesn't actually want to stack up his shield and try and play into Spark's game. He takes an off angle that splits the pressure that's coming out of the Spark, makes it more difficult for them to actually find pickoffs. Meanwhile, you know, Stand 1 and Fleta are hiding on close corners with Mei Orisa, playing on that combo. So Void getting a ton done and adjusting his style to what the situation demands. You can't ask for more than that out of your Sigma player.
And I mean, it's been a joy to watch too, because I feel like you go through times in Overwatch where you look at players, they go, okay, they're playing well, but then you have a player that just stands out and you go, whoa, 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 that player's playing exceptionally well. And, you know, the kind of highlight what you brought up in the very beginning when we started the segment is that it's not even that Sasson is playing necessarily bad. It's just Void has been exceptional in the role right now, and it's not something you see all that often. Players kind of have bubbles where they rise above, and you know, especially the last 2 weeks, Void has just looked so incredibly good. And I think so long as Sigma is in the pool, it makes the Dragons really scary.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Void, always felt that he was a huge impact player. I thought this was one of the biggest pickups that the Dragons could make this season. I think Void is one of the best off-tanks in the whole league, so huge pickup from them, and showing his stuff, showing why they picked him up, why they valued him to add to this new superstar roster that the Dragons are feeling. Spark, you know, they had some nice team play, some nice group rotations that got them to win that first control round, but Shanghai bounced back so strong. I mean, 2 steamrolls the next 2 Koth rounds. That's got to be painful as we roll into Route 66.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it gets any better here for the Spark, especially with how they've been playing it here so far. And, you know, you take a look at the compositions here. They're going to be running with the Mei Hangzhou again, from the looks of it. And yeah, how do you feel that stacks up here on Route 66?
Well, I think this map is far better for this comp than a control point map, especially one that you've lost mid-fight. I think on control, this comp can definitely work, especially if you have map control, if you have mid control. It can be really effective. As long as the enemy has to come to you, this amount of spam can be really, really valuable. But we see Lip mirroring as well. The Reaper can can suffer pretty hard on this map. A lot of low ground, high ground situations where Hanzo's wall climb. It just gets you a ton of value, keeps you shooting when other DPS heroes just wouldn't be able to.
Look right now. Looking for the corner, looking for any arrow that can land its mark before it comes over. Turn the tide of battle quite quickly. But for now, neither team doing anything crazy. Just both teams exchanging poke. And the Dragons, again, we have a slow approach here, not even really pushing the payload much, focusing on the team battle first.
This is a very close fight. You know, it's very easy for it to break down explosively one way or the other. This time it's Shanghai taking control of this train position. Meanwhile, their team moves up in May, and a big freeze from both squads, but Lip finds the first kill on Assassin. It's immediately traded, though.
Yeah, they get Void out of the battle. That's a good trade for the Spark, the way things have been going. Gushue moving on forward. A little bit of a dangerous spot though, the B, and Gushue ends up getting frozen and taken on down. So the trades work out well for the Dragons, especially with the spawn advantage.
Yeah, when you're this close to your own spawn, going 1 for 1 is pretty much ideal from the attacker perspective. nice work from Spark not to fall earlier there, but it's a great movement by Shanghai. They wrap around the lower right side close to the cliff, take control of that crucial position on the train. If you don't control that broken train, it's so easy for defenders to walk up and flank you. So I love that decision from them. Gets them control of this fight and now control the map. And now it's Spark's turn to retake from a defensive position. That's the most difficult thing to do in this mirror match, so it's going to be a real test for him.
Dragons right now staying on the payload. The Spark looking for infantry. D.Va right now on his end. Could be explosive, but for now, holding a bit back. And the Spark looking for a different engagement here, Jake.
Yeah, and it's going to cost them pretty heavily. They're going to be mad dash.
Don't even get to the point!
Not even there. Just giving up against the BAP wall. I mean, the BAP wall is so devastating. I don't hate it. I mean, it's almost impossible to push into that much damage at long range. But this is the reality of this mirror match. It's an extremely positional game. The key thing here for Spark is to make this neck fold work. Now they're the defenders. Now they have that double shield positional advantage. They should be able to win the spam game. They've also got that amplification matrix as well. So everything's in their court to get some control here, but 4 minutes on the clock, so a lot of opportunities for the attackers to change things up.
There's a tough window here. The Dragons have ulted up. The Spark not quite there yet, so if we're to engage right now, have quite a bit of an opportunity. The transitions though, up. Gotta be getting off the Dragon for a little bit of distraction. Siaki though finds Gushue, 6 on 5. Flip, low versus Sombra. Can he clutch it out? Looking there? No, not quite.
Doesn't need to though. It's Fleta finding pick.
Yeah, Dragon's able to just win back on the payloads. It doesn't matter.
Nice delay now, but once again, I mean, that was the fight that Spark needed to win. They're in defensive position. They should be able to win with shield advantage, but look who it is. It's Void and Fleta who rolled up on the flank on that top gas station position and just messed up the whole calculus. The defenders want to set up in a simple double shield setup.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, this is going to be such a late pick on the Godspeed.
Godspeed was hiding going, they don't know I'm here, do they? Do they? Oh,
that's
they
so
did.
Painful. This might, the Spark might have to give this up. I mean, they've got a ton of ults. They really want to fight here. They really want to do something, but this is such a brutal position, even if you're 6 on 6. So going without one, and Sigma isolated entirely alone. Just a devastating hold here. Nice move by Fleta.
And they dropped the Blizzard just to be sure. If there's any hope Sasa was going to get out, it's not going to happen there. Fleta back over. Complete cleanup here for the Dragons. So everything you're saying about the Spark, hoping for that longer point B hold, it completely goes up in flames.
Yeah, I think that first fight is the one they need to win. That's the one that is winnable. They weren't controlling the gas station flank properly, though. Fleta and Void rolled up on that side, and they were just uncontested. And as soon as on the defense, you want to be setting up in a very simple position. Everyone's shooting shields. You have more shield than the enemy because you're defenders. You win. But Shanghai, understanding that, they don't present that opportunity to the defenders. They come in from an off angle. We'll see if Sassen's able to replicate it. Doesn't look like he's going for that play, though, and Gushue's already taking a ton of pressure.
Now the Spark right now just struggling to get their footing once more. They have the tools to do so. I think you're going to see Sasson right now look around, reflect to set things up. Bebe holding him in the back. And the Dragons respecting it to a degree here, Jake. They're not rushing in. Biding their time.
This is a very easy point to stumble on the offense. Your best chance to cap is that right now, and oh, that's such a huge flank from Godspeed. High risk, high reward, but it pays off this time.
Yeah, gets his counterpart, and the Spark now moving forward off the flank set by Godspeed. He might be down, but the rest of the Spark still very much alive. Moving on forward, and the Dragons in a bit of a retreat here, I would say, but it can't be a retreat for long.
Yeah, Void's doing a great job. Even when his team retreats, it's a soft retreat, not a hard one. They're able to control a lot of key positions on the map. They don't have to retake it all every single time. So getting in on this high ground is going to be a little bit easier. Still always a brutal position to be in an attack, and then pick off by Godspeed shows exactly why that is. On the attack, you're just pushing into a veritable shooting gallery here.
Yeah, Godspeed able to get another 2. So Godspeed being invisible for a bit earlier in the series, now starting to turn things on. The Dragons finding time, starting to slip away. Still 2 minutes, 40 seconds left, so they have time to recover here, Jake. But the Spark have fought their way back into a map that, until this point, was looking pretty one-sided.
This last is arguably one of the worst in the entire game to take in this mirror match. I mean, the attackers have to do something really extraordinary to break this open. This is pretty comparable to any 2CP last point. The defenders have huge advantages here holding this shooting gallery. I mean, how do you deal with that? But that's just how it is on the attack.
Like
someone's going to make something crazy happen. I'd love to see like maybe a May boost around the flank or something. Shanghai, I know they have a lot of time in the bank, but you've got to get creative here. It's almost impossible to win if you give the defenders the straight up fight they're looking for.
It's going to be difficult. And the Spark right now, very comfortable in their position at this point. The Dragons just getting picked off fight after fight. Godspeed getting away with a whole bunch of flanks. And I just wonder, how many times can you get away with that flank?
Lip is poking from that angle, so he's controlling the flank, protecting his teammates from Godspeed. Godspeed's taking a ton of pressure from Void, though.
And Void taking matters into his own hands. He's under for a bit. Now the Dragons don't have to worry about the flank. He can stay as a unified front. Spark. Push back to 3. Void now decides it's time for the Flux. No sum in the back. Bongo still up, and the Dragons commit the Transcends, but it's not time to save Lip. Lip ends up falling. Godspeed now working to go back, but in the front, the Blizzard from Fleta doing the work required. The Dragons getting the better of the fight. Still a minute 14 left, and this is still a quick time, Jake.
Wow, insane fight for that high ground, getting control. Huge flux by Void there. I mean, he does get frozen by the Blizzard, but he forces the trans, does a ton of damage, forces a ton of key utility out from the defenders, and that secures Shanghai that position on high ground, and that's the last that a lot of teams fail to cap and still win maps. So to cap that last with a minute in the tank is far beyond expectations. Shanghai are cruising in this series.
And I mean, remember for the Spark, they lost map 1, and you end up losing here. That puts you in reverse sweep territory already, not where you want to be. And so far today, you think about the previous match we just saw, it's been a day for defense. So, you know, given how Route 66 is, given how you can get first point holds, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Dragons end up with something like a point A hold here, unless something dramatically changes for the Spark. Yeah,
definitely. I just think the Shanghai are showing better tactical understanding, and I just think that's so relevant in this particular comp matchup. You know, when they're in the dominant position, when they're able to hold, you see Void grouping up with his team, just playing the simple game. We outspam your shield, we will shoot your shield all day long. But when Void knows that he doesn't have that position, he knows that his team won't win the shield trade even if he's there, then the team splits up. They go for off angles, separations. The people on cart are hiding behind it on attack. They're not trying to spam aggressively. They're not trying to commit resources. And what that does is it creates a position where the defender's advantages are minimized. And, you know, we'll see if Spark are able to recreate that same sort of tactical play. It's going to be tough, though, because you already know Void understands that. Void is going to be contesting those off angles. He's not just going to be letting Assassin walk in and do what he just did to the opposing team.
Also for Void, you just have more things you can use on the defense and making the offense just have a difficult time to go on this map. Godspeed off on the venture, looking for Zen in the back. Immediate support coming in, but not really as much as they would like. Tiaki going to fall early. Now Godspeed swapping over to Hangzhou.
Oh, nice work by Godspeed and great work by D.Va as well to finish out that initial kill. Those are two crucial picks. Lip does strike back on Assassin, but probably not going to be enough. Huge spawn advantage here for the attackers, so they should be able to get this card rolling. Lee J gone, taking a ton of pressure as well. So this is going to be the end of the first point hold, or the spawn hold for the Shanghai Dragons. Now they're going to have to retake point A, but they're able to retreat with a few key players, so it won't be a full retake. They have a bit of map position, which actually is so important in this comp, not being in that hard reset territory, being able to control some parts of the maps the enemy team can't have absolute free reign to go wherever they want.
Now we'll see if the Dragons have a better recontest here than, of course, the Spark had. Where the Spark, they just got pushed out last time. They couldn't even contest point A after they got to this point. The Dragons, meanwhile, going for a split. And Izayaki ends up getting caught in the middle of the split. So the Dragons are already working in a very tough spot. Godspeed continuing his assault here. The Dragons have to find a way to bring this back 5-on-6. Godspeed under pressure from 2, and we'll see if he can get away.
Lip strikes back onto Adora, though, and now it's up to Godspeed to get one more. Void on such low HP, being pressured from all sides. D.Va is the one to finish him off. Godspeed once again finds Lip. That counterpart duel has been a key bright spot for the Spark, going their way a number of times here, so you got to give a lot of credit to Godspeed. This is a matchup where Hangzhou can make a ton of plays, find those one-shot headshot pickoffs to open things up, and that's exactly what the Spark need to get this offense rolling. Shanghai had a blistering pace, so they've got to keep up now.
Yeah, and at the very least, they get through point A pretty quickly. 4.5 minutes left for point B. And it's all been really Godspeed. When you look at the good parts for the Spark in the last round, the good parts here, Spark winning the mirror matchup on the Hangzhou and paying dividends.
Now both teams jockeying position on this back high ground. Lip turns it around, though. That's exactly what the Dragons needed to get position now back on this map. Dragon Strike could be really devastating here, but Lip going for the headshot. That's so brutal onto IDK. Without their main healer, how will they survive here? And it doesn't even look like Lip wants to commit his ult. He knows how easy this fight is. Whole team steamrolling forward there. It's all about that Hangzhou duel.
How the tables turn. Yeah, I love how we just get done talking about, yeah, Godspeed, he's been winning the Hangzhou duel, everything's going great. Finish the sentence and Lip suddenly turns things around, but look at the impact on the game. The Dragons now in firm control.
Yeah, and this is where it really gets difficult for the Spark. Now they have to break this calcified position that the defenders are able to create. Void and Fleta, we've seen them pair up time and time again. It's a really devastating duo, so much control, and the flankers aren't really able to get in from the Spark. Dragon might give them the space they need for just that, though.
Drop the Dragon to gain entry. Sasson, though, gets devoured. Lip landed a great Dragon from the side, deals with the Sigma immediately, and that's a signal for the Dragons to just converge on to the payload. Now, you look at the time here for the Spark, it's starting to slip away.
Definitely, and great ultimate economy there, just trading equal ults there for the Dragons, exactly what they want to be doing on defense. Love the Dragon difference there from the Shanghai Dragons. Godspeed has to use his Dragon Strike just to clear out Void and Fleta, just to be able to get through the choke and start spamming, and Lip able to save his Dragon Strike, actually punish for kills, shut down the flank, stand one, instantly burning Gushue. You have to imagine that was off the back of a headshot coming from Fleta or Lip, and the Blizzard as well is going to secure this fight.
And the Spark are just struggling to even get through the choke point now, and this is difficult. Every fight they lose burning nearly a minute off the clock. They started out with over 4.5 minutes, now down to 2.5. And the Dragons, what if they changed up here, Jake, to suddenly just take control of the fight?
And just, I mean, they're in defensive positions here, right? This is the first time we've seen it on the map. I mean, aside from that initial spawn fight that went Sparks away off the back of a huge pick-off by Bebe. I mean, there was a Sombra there as well, but Bebe did secure that kill, and long-range damage is critical. Now the Supercharger gives a bit of an opening, but the Amplification Matrix just as devastating, so there's not a big opening here for the Spark unless they can find some sort of pick-off.
And neither team ends up with much of a poke advantage there. Somewhat of a trade, and Void, oh, finds Godspeed, shuts down the flank. He's had enough of the flanking Hangzhou. Just completely eradicates, and he's not done yet. Moves on over, drops the Flux. For a little bit of extra. Now both teams throwing ults here at the payload. Fleta ends up getting caught. Void, though, still alive in a great spot. Looking for the rock, looking for the finish. Izayaki in there, and Void just deep diving, and it works out.
Yeah, and Void still has this kinetic grasp, so this fight's already over. Beautiful hold right at the choke point. I mean, Shanghai, this is the only time they were in this hold before. Yes, it was broken by a quick pickoff from Bebe, but it just doesn't seem like there's any holes in this defense. Shanghai are playing this to perfection, trading ults equivalently, both teams with same ults. That's exactly what the defenders want, and Lip has a big advantage casting this Dragon Strike. It's much easier given how choked up Spark are in this low ground.
And Void just continuing to take a very aggressive flank position, something that's been very difficult for Spark to deal with. Spark going up for the Dragon, start off the fight. The Dragon goes from Lip, devours Adora right on the right-hand side. That angle for Lip paying a lot of dividends right now for the Dragons, Jake. Just one Dragon after the other, and somehow the Spark can't get away.
Yeah, I just think the positional game here from the Dragons is absolute perfection. This is exactly where they need to be, contesting right at the choke, making it awkward and difficult for Spark to even get their spam off, to even be playing efficiently, and the defenders already have an efficiency advantage. Spark are going to try a new approach from the high ground. We'll see if Shanghai are ready for it. Looks like they're not quite, though, so this would be a much better fight for the Spark as they get out of the high ground with relative ease here. Not over yet,
well, they don't end up getting flanked by Void this time, which helps, where before they were just getting ripped apart from the front and from that left flank that the Dragons are so aptly containing. But the problem is, as they take this approach here, Jake, they're not in the payload, and it's 18 seconds left, so the Spark must get a pick-off from this rotation where the attack becomes defense and the defense becomes attack.
Definitely super aggressive plays from Lee Jae Gon. Forces Godspeed out. Lip, though, also falling to this Batiste, so good rotation so far from the Spark. This might be enough for them.
And I mean, it's looking more promising than anything before. Fleta out of the fight. Now Spark 6-on-3. The long rotation finally paying off. But the problem here, Jake, is that all their time has been burned away. They had 4.5 minutes, now down to 0 in overtime. But if you're the Dragons, you have a really long spawn time to get back. Do you even try and contest point B here, knowing how difficult it can be?
Looks like they want to. Lee Jae Gon switching over to the Lucio is a major telegraph that they want to take this fight. It's the only reason to be on that hero right now. If you were just going to go for last, undoubtedly you keep the BAP. But the Lucio is a signal. They want to rush through these chokes, get to point. Even if they lose this fight, though, it could be a good play for them. If they just force a lot of ults from the offense, you know, even if Spark captures second point, this map's not over yet. They need to do even better than that, and third point is an even tougher test. So I like to switch to Lucio. Oh, wait, no, Lee Jae Gon is actually
swap back over the back, yeah.
Batiste, and still keep the fight going anyway, just speeding his teammates there, I see.
If it works out, flooding a lot of damage and entries. Godspeed with the angle, 2 down. to kick things off. And, you know, this is such a difficult point to recontest, and the Dragons, no exception to this point. They couldn't get anything going in the Spark. Again, minute 20 left to go.
All right, I'm going to take back some of my praise for the Dragons there. I like the idea of the Lucio speeding the cart, but when they switch back, it's like, wow, why even do that in the first place? Maybe a bit of miscommunication from them. At any rate, though, last point still looks extremely holdable for them. They've got a few key ults in the tank. It's not a complete snowball here. Stand 1 with this Supercharger, that could be just the end of the game. You know, if the offense can't take down the Supercharger, it's just an overwhelming DPS advantage. So the positioning of that Supercharger from Stand 1 going to be very, very important here in this fight.
And meanwhile, Godspeed probably going to be looking for a flank Dragon if possible. Which way? Staying on the payload, the Dragons biding their time. They know that this is essentially just about to be one fight territory. Spark need to make progress and need to make it fast, but Godspeed opens up here in the Dragon. Looking force rotation out of the Dragons. Lip fires the Dragon on the left side. I've said Dragon a lot. It's all entirely fitting. Dragons all fired away. Both teams still standing as Spark look to just muscle their way onto the high ground.
Oh, a huge haul into the Blizzard from Fleta. This is devastating. 3 players frozen. May forced to be in her own ice block. That's a disgusting initiation. Beautiful haul from Stand 1. Comboing in to that Blizzard. And this map's all over. Godspeed on the Tracer. 1v6. Good luck, brother. You need it.
Well, can't stand the payload. So that is going to be the Dragons taking map 2. Now up 2-0 in the series. And look, there was flashes from the Spark there, particularly from Godspeed, but it was not enough. And you know, I think you called it on Route 66, Jake, where just finishing the map is so difficult. And even when the Spark sort of had a rally there, you had to put in the context of the map, and you know, you look at it, the Dragons were still in a far better position.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good rotation. I like that Spark went for that high ground play. I think maybe it was a little bit too little, too late. I kind of wish they would have gone for that committed high ground play earlier. Getting that position where they're all over the rooftops, all over the bridge, gave them a huge advantage in taking second point. Shanghai taking the side swap. We're in that exact choke they had so far been stuffing the attackers back into. So I like that rotation from them, but on third point, there's just no such rotation available. It pretty much has to come down to ultimate economy to take last point. And yes, Spark do have Gravitic Flux, but they don't have a Supercharger and they don't have a Blizzard. And those are the crucial AoE denial ultimates that are really what you need in that last fight overtime scenario. And, you know, Spark go for the high ground contest, and it just doesn't work out for them. A huge halt by Stand 1, though. Finding the 5-man haul into the Blizzard. Not so easy to get that big of a haul, and that's exactly what they needed to close out the map. So props to the Dragons. Just beautiful tactics, beautiful team play. I can't compliment this team enough.
Yeah, the Dragons, again, consistent, solid, every player stepping up, and it certainly put the opposition in a bind. Will the Dragons be able to sweep? We're going to break it down at halftime.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by ZipChair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
It's time for your game break presented by Pringles Wavy, where the Dragons, they've been kind of pummeling the Spark here, Jake, and it's been a masterclass in consistency.
Absolutely. I just think the tactical play has been so on point from Shanghai. Whether that credit is due to their coaching staff, which I'm sure it is, or to how well the players are adhering to their disciplined play style, their disciplined positional play. It's just been beautiful to watch, frankly. Shanghai on the defense, playing those crucial positions where they have the biggest advantage. On the offense, breaking things open with some fancy flanks from Void and Fleta working as a duo. Really, that's been the game changer here for their team. It's the strategy, it's the tactics, the team play.
So I have to ask, we saw some cool plays there, but what in your mind was the crunch time moment presented by Pringles Wavy?
For me, it had to be that on Busan second round in the downtown, that open stage where it looked like anybody's mid-fight. I think it was Stand 1 on the Orisa falling for Shanghai, Sasin on the Sigma falling for Spark. Looked like, fairly even trade until Void comes in on the top rope and just 3 or 4 left clicks, and I think he just cleaved down half the HP that Spark had remaining. So disgusting plays from Void. Had his gravitic flux up, and when Sasin was at 33% on the next fight. So that was the next fight was free off the back of Void's huge performance in the first fight. I mean, that's 2 fights off of basically one massive play by Void. So that for me was just an obscene outplay by Void.
You used a great term when we were talking about that, where I feel like it doesn't get used enough in Overwatch when you're just crushing the mirror matchup. You're lapping the opposition where you go, oh, you haven't gotten your first ult yet? That's cute. I've already had 2. And it was such a dominant performance coming out from Void. It's what's, in part, made Shanghai so exciting to watch. That was our crunch time moment. We'll be back with the second half.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
And we are back after the half, and once more, it's been a bit of a quick one. ZP here with Jake, and the Dragons looking sublime. The Spark just about done.
Yeah, just so far no answers from the Spark. That first round went their way. I thought they, had a bit of wind in their sails, but it seems that Shanghai immediately back on their feet and just pummeling the Spark. Absolutely brutal holds. Whether it was crushing through those next 2 Koth maps or holding so strong in the defense of Route 66. making Route 66 offense look easy, which is an incredibly rare sight in the Overwatch League. So far, the Dragons look completely unstoppable in their division. I see why people are comparing them to the Shock.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously in Overwatch, it's a team effort, right? Where we'll highlight certain players, certain positions, and, you know, it wouldn't be worth anything if the rest of your team wasn't doing well behind you. But I just, again, have to go to the front line right now of the Dragons, where I know going into the season there were many analysts that looked at it and wondered, is Stand 1 for real? Because even when you do well in Contenders, right, you're not necessarily assured that that Contenders performance is going to translate to Overwatch League. You ever talk with Hexagrams for any moment, he'll be like, yeah, the guy's good at Contenders, but is he going to be good as he goes to the Overwatch League? I'm not sure I want to see. That's Hex. But in this case, Stand 1 has passed the eye test, he's passed the Hex test, and I'm excited to see where this goes, because right now the front line for the Dragons has been great.
Yeah, I mean, he's fitting in really well with the roster. I just think, you know, like, to add to your point about team play, I think that's one thing in Overwatch. You know, some people complain the players don't show enough personality or, you know, talk enough trash or whatnot, get out there. But I think the reality is that it's because the game is so team-oriented. You know, any high-level player will tell you that if you're talking trash, you have to be doing it just a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because a win or a loss is never off the back of, you know, one player making a hero play. You don't win a series that way. You know, maybe you give yourself that 1% edge that does it in the end, but the way you get there, the way you get to that 50% for somebody to add the final one is by this incredible team play, and Shanghai is putting that on display. It seems like everyone's contributing from all the DPS, from the DPS tanks and supports, everyone having great games. So you got to give props to Shanghai. They're looking really, really solid.
Interesting composition coming out here. Don't think they'll stay on the sim. Think it's going to swap back on. Right now, just getting some information here. They even use the Hammond as a skying tool, and they end up going, you know what, it's time for Reaper May. Why Reaper May versus this?
Very interesting comp actually on this map. Could be difficult for Reaper. If the Orisa's close to him, yeah, as she is, he's going to have a big opportunity to get a lot of spam and just rush the enemy down. It's going to be up to Godspeed to maybe pick off a backlaner here.
Let's see if it's enough. Dragons right now. Takes it to the high ground, Stand 1. Trying to power through. Look, the shield break and the Spark getting frozen. Fleto is able to get right through. And this puts the Spark in a tough situation. Not out of it yet. They're actually able to get decently disengaged. But the Dragons in the driving seat here. But the Spark, they turn the tide! Gushue and Auto able to turn around on it. And now there's a chance.
Yeah, Bebe got bullied off the map there, but Gushue and Rhea were able to keep control. And now with Rhea in, maybe the tank line, the new look, potentially a good one. For the Spark, as Gushue and Rhea holding strong on that high ground. That ends up being the difference maker there for sure.
Yeah, so not too bad for the Spark, able to stop. Oh, what a halt! Stand 1, that was beauty right there. The halt, throwing him to the ground. And now Lip looking to take advantage. Auto out. Lip gets caught, the Spark fighting back evenly. Godspeed back into the fight. And not a bad response after what was a very good engage from the Dragons.
Yeah, these fights are knockdown, drag out to be sure. But so far, Godspeed's been getting a ton of value on the Tracer. Lip dealing a lot of damage, but struggling to stay alive with Bebe and IDK pretty much uncontested at long range. These supports basically become DPS when they're not forced to heal. So Bebe in particular is getting a ton of value with very little pressure on him. The pull bomb!
Oh. Gotta love it! Halt into the pulse bomb. Godspeed delivering on what was set up for him by the halt. The Spark looking renewed.
Yeah, that's beautiful stuff there. Exactly the combo they needed. Turning the Pulse Bomb into this key team fight ultimate. That's the power of the Orisa Halt. Really being maximized here. And now, Shanghai, they're close to almost all their ults, but they don't have any of them online just yet. I think they need to wait for Izuyaki's Cole, but that should be up momentarily. And with the Cole, though, could be an opening to potentially rush through the choke. Rhea does have that Gravitic Flux, though.
Dragons saying, no, we're just going to go through here again. Rhea, response with the Flux. Void cannot sustain with Void out of the fight. It's looking so good for the Spark. The Spark healthy on all ends. They shouldn't even have to use Transcendence here. And now for the Dragons shake, we're down to a final minute 10. What a turnaround in fortunes here so far for the Spark.
Yeah, I just feel like the Reaper is not really working out here for Lip. He's committing on the hero, and at this point he's got Death Blossom. He might be forced to just keep it. Sound Barrier should be a big enabler for him. But Bebe and Godspeed have just been uncontested. No one who can really get on this Zen and pressure him. So Bebe's being this extra DPS hero, just pumping out the damage, calling out those Discord targets for Godspeed, and it's been working really well. Although quick initiation from Shanghai, this looks much better than the previous fight.
Shanghai needs to do something soon, or we are guaranteed to go to map 4. Dragons though, decent spot, what a drop from Blizzard. Gushue out of the fight, Lip room to work with, gets to the back. And the Dragons finally find a way through on point A, but the Spark, they gotta be happy with that defense, Jake.
Yeah, I like the supercharger from stand 1. Just drop it in the doorway, get it out there, rush in, and they're just able to overwhelm with the help of that Blizzard. Otto's Blizzard being used in the previous fight, not available now. Godspeed back onto the Hangzhou, but here's where the Reaper can completely turn around, in my opinion. I think on first point, very difficult. You're rushing through chokes. You have to stay at a death ball. Not really much opportunity to set up and dive flankers, but now we're onto a much broader stage of the map. Hangzhou is going to come out. You know, he has a lot of range to poke with, but eventually you're going to have to come contest the cart, and it's inevitably going to be a close range fight. That's where Reaper can really start to dominate.
Spark right now looking to maintain their defensive posture. Rhea, decent spot here, trading out with Void. Poke for poke. The Dragons, though, starting to get the better of the battle. So if they decide to keep focusing on the high ground, Rhea gets a chance to heal up. Meanwhile, just rotating around, Jake.
I like this by Spark. They're not playing for multiple fights. They're just going to commit for the one good fight, give Godspeed maximum position. He can be very far back in the high ground here. Lip slipping through the flank, unscouted here, so trying to make something happen, but it's going to take a long time to make this rotation. We'll see if he gets punished for it. Doesn't look like he's scouted yet.
And one gets picked off immediately. Lip looking to equalize. Death Blossom here to the back, finds Rhea. Bebe already down, and Lip's Death Blossom turning the tide of battle. Just finds the right moment.
Big brain flank there. I love the TP into the old spawn, completely unnoticed by the defenders. Slips around behind them and in a perfect position for a Death Blossom, just cleans it up. Shows the power of not having McCree available this week. Normally, you have those reliable stuns that shut down that Reaper ult instantaneously, but you know, Hangzhou, it's pretty much a headshot or nothing when it comes to shutting down a Reaper ult.
And that time ended up being nothing. Dragons, 2.5 minutes left. Not a bad time here in Nabani, but as we've seen a lot in Nabani, it doesn't really matter how you do on point A and point B. Point C is the difference maker.
Very true. As Dragons switch over to a spam comp of their own, taking the mirror match now. It's very important to see which DPS win the duel, but that's a massive pickup by Void, doing a ton of damage and getting all the space in the world for the Dragons, but immediately countered by Rhea. Not as big, though.
Goes for a flux, and Dragons able to recover. More importantly, Dragons able to turn the corner. That corner is so good for the defense. Well, Flip ends up trying to go for the flank. Shut down by Rhea. 6 on 5 now for the Spark. Drop the Dragon right down Broad Street. Now the Dragons, they invest in Blizzard trying to turn it back around. Doesn't get anything. Spark still a full 6. Dragon still a man down. Each way, find Izayaki. Now for the Dragons, they should be considering a swift retreat because the Spark are coming in hot.
Yeah, no retreat really in the cards here for the Dragons. It's fight to the death with no Lucio. But switching over to the spam comp, mirror matching, this is always going to favor the defenders. They were already on this comp first. They had a big ult bank going into the fight. And Shanghai had to swap 3 heroes to get to this composition. So they were always going to have a really tough one here. I think to Spark's credit, though, they won that fight very, very cleanly. Now it's even ultimates from both teams, which should theoretically favor the defenders. So Gushue and Stand 1, their bongo positioning in this fight going to be really, really critical. You need that supercharger to live max duration. It's all about shield break in this mirror match.
Barrier in place. Dragons right now, two-pronged approach. Void ends up merging the rest of the team. Immortality Field immediately forced out and down, so not a bad early opening here for the Spark. And the Dragons is just one quality fight now, Jake.
Yeah, Void poking, just trying to finish his ult charge here. Dragons actually going for a very committed flank here with Void and Fleta. We've seen this look so many times, and it's worked time and time again, so I can see why. Stand 1 does lose his supercharger, though.
Stand 1 right now just stuck in the corner. Jones old evil toaster vibes. DJ gone down. Godspeed finding some room. Lippo takes down his counterpart. The problem is, this is far better for the defense here, Jake, and I don't think this is the winning fight for the Dragons.
Yeah, I like the idea from Void and Fleta to go for the off angle, but the Blizzard onto Stand 1 is just too big. It forces him off his supercharger. He can no longer defend it. Fleta trying to get the freeze. He just can't live, though. That headshot onto Rhea is a total game changer. That's exactly what they needed. No, one shield down. Now it's only on Gushue on the Hammond to touch cart. If Lip can find one more, this could easily turn.
So Dragons draw things out. We end up in a different fight. Gushue, now the Hammond, not quite as good for the setup. Looking for a dash on in. Under a bit of pressure. Spark, slow playing so far. Otto is down before the transcends. Give it go. 2 already down. Bebe has to transcend in a 4-on-6 situation. They get Lee J gone, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Gushue not even able to get over the Transcendence. Flutta starts cleaning up. 3 for Flutta, back on the payload. It's Flutta and Void. And the Dragons find a way through as time ticks away.
I said Lip needed one more, and he delivered exactly that, taking down Otto. Then the Flux coming in by Void. Picks up Rhea, and even though the Flux isn't what kills him, they pick him up out of the Transcendence so that the spam from Mei and Hangzhou can finish off that Sigma. Insane stuff there from Shanghai. I thought the Spark had that defense locked up. Maybe a bit of a mistake there, switching over to the Hammond a bit early. I think an Orisa would have been more effective in that long, sustained engagement. But there it is, Shanghai taking third point. And my question is, can Spark break first? Because after the hold that Shanghai put out on Route 66 second point defense, I'm really worried about the ability of Spark to break these very advantageous defender holds. And Nimbani first is one of the most brutal in the game.
It's been a day for defense, what we've seen. And the interesting thing to me is that it's been a day for defense with very different looks about how to do it, where you compare this match to the match we saw earlier in the day, right, where there was a lot more Pharah, there was Ashe being played, of all things, and Chengdu looked very good with that sort of defense. Now, we're something that's been a little bit more traditional nowadays with more Mei Reaper, but defense has still been at a huge advantage. Why do you think it's been such a tough day for offense, seemingly?
I think it's the nature of the double shield comp. Shield strategies are always favoring the defenders because you're able to put down that initial Orisa shield before the fight even starts, and then drop your second one as soon as the first breaks, which is not a luxury that the attackers have. So fundamentally, the defenders are always going to win the shield trade. And what that does is just leads to constantly having more ults, constantly staying ahead. But just means the attackers have to be wily, they have to be creative. That's why we've been seeing Void and Fleta always going on these off-angle partner flanks. But whoa, this is a very aggressive defense from Shanghai, looking very deadly. Otto with the fully defensive wall just to stop that rush. He smelled that one coming.
Yeah, and I mean, that also could have been a really big play from Otto if you do it the wall a little bit further back, get the split. The balls again, and it's getting chilly in here, and Void couldn't stand the cold. Down immediately, the Spark up 1, and you see if they're able to snowball into this here, stand one out of the fight. So the front line for the Dragons, their shining point is down. The Spark have a real big opportunity here, and Bebe ready to clean up.
Potentially a bit over-aggressive where the defenders pushing aggressively in, but there's a Batiste and the Zen just spamming down in that hallway, and if you can't end the engagement very, very quickly on the Mei Reaper, it won't go in your favor. That's the power of these long extended engagements with the Bab Zen. You're always going to be out-damaging, especially with Hangzhou by your side. So good plays by Shanghai getting aggressive, but I think overplaying their hand there. I would have liked them to wait a little bit longer. You know, the offense has to peek out that high ground, but this time Shanghai wants to keep the fight going. Oh, no chance. Beautiful cap. Nice Mei wall by Otto.
Yeah, they don't quite get to the point. Izyaki's out of it. Now for the Dragons, just go, okay. Time to slap ourselves, wake up a little bit, figure out what in the world to change up here. Li Jaegan, I think one of the things is changing Lucio. Or nope, just taxi.
Just get an epic taxi. It's a nice rollout. That was beautiful. I love watching the expert hands on the Lucio with those rollouts. Getting that maximum speed taxi, maximum efficiency. But will it be enough here? Spark holding the high ground. It's going to be difficult for Reaper to do much about that.
And the Spark, they've gotten free payload pressure here so far. On the point B, now the Dragons looking for their chance to stop it, looking for a way back on in. Shield is up, and here comes the Flux. Rhea opening things up, sending people up, and Lip not get away. Gushue there in the follow through. And the Spark now being pretty consistent here in point B as the Dragons look a little bit disheveled.
Yeah, Nimbani looking like their map for the Spark as rolling through first point should have been a much tougher test in my opinion. Normally that's a point where defenders can rely on at least a few fight wins in a row. And so far it's all Spark on this offense, so a huge turnaround from what we've seen so far in the series. It's going to be rough to contest this second point at all. I have to imagine Shanghai's just setting up for third.
I think you're Shanghai here. You're hoping that there's some way that A, you get Void on the flank again, and B, it's been a quiet game for Fleta so far, and charged up and good to go, but so is Otto on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fleta played fine. I just maybe think the timing on those initial aggressions weren't really ideal. Now Shanghai has some ultimates to work with, but so does the Spark.
Spark up here with the Supercharger, stand one, bit out of position. And the Dragons just can't find a foothold here so far. One by one, the Spark just grinding the Dragons into dust, and this could be an unceremonious, very quick capture of Nabani if the Dragons don't do something soon.
Although, one thing for the Dragons, they've been very, very disciplined, banking all 6 ultimates. So if they can make a hold here, it's very easy to run the clock back for 4 or 5 minutes on this defense, but this fight is critically important here for the Dragons. They can't mess it up.
Void, patience here on the Flux. Stand 1 though. Fun before the Flux even connects. Transcendence out here from the Spark. The Spark looking to put away. 2 down, 6 on 4. And the Spark looking to set one of the quickest times we've seen here on Nambani. Rhea and Gods be unstoppable on the point. 4 minutes left remaining. That's 4:15, Jake. That's fast.
That was just totally brutal, dominant. I'm struggling to comprehend what we've just seen. That's a disgusting offense on Nambani. Shanghai sticking too much with the Reaper comp. I think that comp is designed for first point, designed for those aggressive chokeholds in the upper room as the fight they went for. But, you know, from that point forward, I think that the Hangzhou comp gets better and better and better. The Reaper comp gets worse, worse, and worse. And if you're Shanghai and you lose the first fight on the Reaper comp, you're in a tough spot, and showing why. I think Shanghai maybe being a bit overconfident in that rush strategy. I would have liked to see them maybe mirror match the spam comp, rely on that defender's advantage a little bit more. We'll see if they're able to make it work this time. I think you're kind of forced to play the Reaper now. You're all in on first point.
Well, what it means here is that we're guaranteed a map 4 no matter what. It's just a matter of, is it going to be 2-0 Shanghai after one of the most epic point A holds we've ever seen? Or is it going to be 2-1 after the Spark solidify dominance and look to turn the tide of battle here in the series? I think right now you take a look at it, given that they have 15 seconds more than what you usually have for point A, I think it's pretty good odds that we go into the next map 2-1.
Yeah, definitely. This should be Spark's map to lose here. 4:15 on the clock. They're going to have 2 to 3 cycles of all their ultimates, or at least they should, you know, to really just find some sort of pick, something to make it work. It's going to have to be textbook perfect defense here for Shanghai, but if there's any team that could do it, I got to believe it's Shanghai, so I'm not counting them out of this just yet.
Definitely wouldn't be wise, but and also let's not forget, it's 4 minutes to defend 33%. So, Jake, you don't even have all the usual defensive options you have in giving a little bit of progress. It's so tough for the defenders here.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, this Reaper comp doesn't care too much about your ults on offense. So, if they can just be a little bit more disciplined on the defense, maybe bait those attackers in a little bit deeper. You see Spark, I think they're trying to bait an engagement here. They don't want to overstep. If Bebe gets caught in front of the ice wall, he can go down extremely quickly. So Shanghai, a much more measured defense this time. They want to let this Spark out onto this high ground.
Yeah, the Dragons aren't necessarily going for the crazy, we're going to rush you down, get Maywalled, and use Void in the first 2 seconds. It didn't work out well before. Although comes on in from the Spark. Gets the Dragons all grouped together. Izyaki's immortality field keeping him alive. As Lip finds room to walk on forward. The Dragons, they get away with the first fight, and as you say, Jake, more measured is the key word there. They weren't anywhere near as aggressive.
Yeah, that's the way I want to see them play. I don't think there's any reason to put your defensive team into that choke point that the attackers are having to come through. You know, I think on the first defense, Shanghai overplayed their hand, maybe getting a bit antsy off that 2-0 lead in the series. So now that they're playing a lot slower, I think I didn't really see any issues with that defense. It felt really rock solid to me. Godsby on the flank is like the one playmaker that's available for the Spark, but there's no easy headshots there. You have to find something crazy to get a pick in that circumstance all alone like that.
Now the Spark decide to take another attempt at it. Drop the wall, move over to the right. The Dragons giving them a decent amount of space here. Spark though, the early immortality field out. The Dragons firing right back forward. Look at Void. Void, Flux is ready right now. They're down 1. Might see it soon, but they don't even need it here. The Spark just kind of get picked apart. They can't make the flank attack work.
I like the idea to split up, you know, put point pressure on, try and get a long-range engagement, utilizing your Hanzo and your Zen for the damage advantage, but it just doesn't work out there. Void using that amplification matrix gets a quick counter kill, so it's an even fight, and you know, from there the Reaper's able to get behind enemy Sigma, turn things around. Defense looking rock solid, 2 minutes off the clock and no progress to show for it. Have the attacker, so yes, Flux is available, but both teams have it.
What a morale buster this would be for the Spark. If you have all this time to win, you only have to get 33% and you don't get through, you get held into it wrong. See if that's the case. Well, Flood is down, so now they're not necessarily looking at that.
It's a huge
Spark,
pickup.
all they need to do is stay alive. Oh, they can't even do that. Void off the other end ends up with 3. Void just slamming the door on the Spark. And Now with a minute 20 left, they've burned most of their time, Jake.
I'm just sitting here open mouthed. That halt from stand 1. I mean, after the huge flux by Void, puts multiple players down to sub 50 HP, and then Void's right in their face, like imagining he's playing Reaper, and he gets 6 players halted into his face. One left click did about 1,000 damage there. At least it looked that way for Void.
Oh man, it was dirty, and now there's only a minute left for the Spark, so it was once looking like an easy slam dunk. Now they might walk away with nothing. Ant Matrix out, dealt with a bit by the wall, but Blizzard is in, and this is so tough for the Spark. They're gonna get frozen, 2 frozen on entry, and they're knocked right on down. Izayaki this time on the cleanup. Okay, now if you're Spark, you panic. This is panic time, Jake.
Yeah, it's looking bad. We're in last fight territory, and Spark have to do it here, or they're not going to do it at all. I mean, yes, as you said, a third map will be forced. And oh, a delay on the Orisa. There's no worse target to delay. This is so bad.
This is where you might see
has to touch point.
Gushui might end up having to go Hammond here, which means he can give up the supercharge just to get the point in time, but all right.
I think IDK has to do that. You can't give up supercharger. There's no way. That ultimate is broken. You need that ultimate. But how are you going to win this fight? Otto with the Blizzard has to be the playmaker they're looking for. Rushing down main, at least the Spark have point contest.
Oh, Godspeed was able to get on. They're going to drop the Blizzard. Gushui back in the fight. Drops the supercharger. Extend the recent perhaps pay off. Lip, though, to the back. The Death Blossom takes down Gushui. And the Dragons, are they about to do it? Lip with the 4K to the back. It's Lip moving on in. They've somehow held the Spark. Do not complete a Numbani. It's a draw, but that is a bitter draw indeed.
Oof, that's painful for the Spark. I mean, yes, it's a draw. You could technically see that as a neutral map result. But if I'm Shanghai, right now, I'm cheering. And that makes all the difference in the world. That they were able to bring back what seemed like an unwinnable hold, make it happen. You know, I was selling that Numbani first point defense as one of the toughest points to break in the game. And then Shanghai just gave it up for free in the first defense. But that's why it's such a brutal point to take. When the defenders play it in that measured style, force you to come out into the open on the attack. The real problem is that, yes, you come out, but A, you're surrounded by all sides. B, as you retreat on attack, if you're forced to retreat, you're retreating around a corner into a tiny hallway. So one Maywall, you know, one controllability, it completely stifles that retreat, and the attackers just destroy you all. Or sorry, the defenders just destroy you all. So beautiful work by Shanghai on their second defense. Absolutely correcting their mistakes. Instant correction, and it results in a map draw. So very impressive work by them. I mean, you got to give credit to Spark for that insane attack round the first time around, but first point just proving too tough of a test the second time around.
It's just a morale breaker to me, where for you, if you're the Spark, you think about the progress there, where you're finally getting something going in the match. You have what should be an easy slam dunk attack to get your first map win. Then you just get held. You get stomped on. It's tough. Well, the Spark, they still have to win 3 maps. Dragons looking for the closer. We'll be back soon to see how it all concludes.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
sometimes you just gotta philosophize about, is it better to have a loss than a draw? And I think the Spark have to be thinking that right now, Jake, after what we just witnessed, where everything was looking so good for the Spark until it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, 4:15 on the clock just to get one tick on first point. But Numbani is a classic stumbling block. It's a brutal first point to take. And, you know, I felt a little bit awkward after saying that. And then the Dragons just, you know, overplayed their hand, rushed the choke, and actually just immediately lost first point on their original defense. But they correct the mistake the second time around, and they just look untouchable. So the Dragons, yes, they show, you know, a little moment of weakness, a little moment of vulnerability, but then immediately it's cleansed away and the team's playing perfectly again. And that's in one map. So that's without the influence of the coaching staff. That's without, you know, anybody getting in there and telling them what to do. You know, they understood their own mistake and they're able to adjust, and it looked perfect from there on out. So Spark, yes, they found a couple moments so far this series to get fight wins, but the rest of it's been all Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about that, too, is that when you get just dominated on attack that hard, to actually come back with the defense that's way better than norm is just so crazy and unprecedented, where, again, I don't know what the full stat story is, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the longest hold on point A in Numbani history, given that it was 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And, again, frankly, if you're going to set that quick of a time on your first attack to just get completely owned on your second attack, it's just not something that happens. But it just happened there. Yeah,
I think the reality in Numbani is a bit of a weird map that first point, that choke point, is the best defender hold in the map. Third point is definitely the second best, but by far the very best way to hold is full hold. So it's a map where we either usually see full caps or a complete stuff on first point. And Shanghai actually showing both of those looks on the defense. But forcing more maps is the Spark. So, I mean, to their credit, series not over yet. They could still get some wins here. We'll see if Dragon's able to break this attack open a little bit more effectively.
It does mean that any path to victory now for the Spark would have to go through not one but two control maps, so they would have to undo the fate they had earlier today on control. It would be a different map, and this is something you like to see. Fleta onto the far.
I really like this look from Shanghai. I think it's almost impossible to win the mirror match brawling on this map. The defenders just have a huge natural advantage, so they're not going to play the mirror. They're going to play this Far Mercy, punish the fact that it's May Reaper on the defense. Nobody who shoots up, not even a D.Va. So great options for Fleta to pipe out this damage. Stand one, just trying to farm up his primal, trying to stay alive. Void, though, taking a ton of pressure. Izayaki healing everyone so effectively.
Fleta finally falls, but so much damage being done in the process. Lets the Dragons get in, and they don't camp the res. Fleta is back up. I'm not sure that's a mistake you can afford making. Now you got to deal with Fleta again. The Dragons back up to a full 6. The Spark are finding themselves prisoners in their own base. Getting that stand one, that helps. That gives them a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, nice call by Bebe. That's exactly what they needed to hold on at this point. But, you know, the Dragons, they don't care about one hero death. They're going to keep fighting. They're going to dive in. Absolutely crazy levels of aggression there as Lip falls. Nano onto Fleta.
Nano on the Fleta from the top. Enough to take down Rhea, and May going, please, I don't want to leave the ice block. Fleta says, absolutely no way. Finishes out Otto right after. Ice block not lasting long enough, and Fleta can only be denied for so long here, Jake.
Yeah, I think with nobody left to really shut down this Fair Mercy combo, as long as Fleta stays pocketed, he should just be slowly cleaning this up. Stand one was the first death, now he's back in the fight, so attackers just playing really effectively around their spawn advantage. They know it doesn't matter if you trade kills, as long as you keep that key Fair Mercy and Ana alive. Those are your core value generators. And Fleta absolutely delivering on that front.
I think that was one rocket, two supports is what we just saw there from Fleta. Hard to tell, we didn't have the direct angle, but it means that Fleta is actually going to stay on this far and not swap off for point B.
Yeah, at the very least, they're going to attempt the snowball. They might end up swapping once they use this Barrage EMP combo, but this could very easily be what Shanghai need to break it open. IDK does have the sound barrier, but he's going to have to be pretty devious to hide from Lip.
The Dragons just exuding pressure onto the Spark right now. The Spark looking for some way to solidify. IDK finds himself hacked. Lip for the opportunity, and Fleta just raw barrage to the back, takes the opportunity, removes Goushue from the fight, and they still have the EMP reserve, but Fleta gets the Tracer! What a maniac over the top! Fleta dominating!
Stand with the Primal as well, takes down Otto. No kills so far for the Spark. They need to find some sort of opening to make this hold happen, but absolutely no cracks in the offense from Shanghai. Fleta over the top, Stand one right in the front. He's going to back off for a little bit of heals. Nano Boost comes out though. attackers diving forward. Fleta so powerful with the nano boost.
Absolutely outrageous. Fleta, rocket after rocket, just completely bombing the Spark out of existence right now. One more pickoff, and the Spark right now just struggling to breathe on the point. It's just too much. The EMP should be the deal sealer here, and that is just brutality coming in from the Dragons.
Not even one kill going Spark's way that fight. Absolute, complete domination by Shanghai. That's textbook play. I mean, that initiation to kill the Orisa was so smart. Not only do they send the D.Va bomb in, which forces a Maywall, which forces Gushue to go off on his own. It's actually a Maywall from the Spark, just trying to defend themselves from a D.Va bomb. But that Maywall isolates your own Orisa. Fleta capitalizes with the barrage, and you know, from there the kill feed is all white. Shu doing a great job. Izayaki doing a great job staying alive in the backline, and then Ana just keeping his tanks alive. Everyone working together on the side of Shanghai to make that offense work. It's very difficult to avoid getting picked off at all. You know, you can't lose any attackers there, or things can easily fall apart, but they don't. They play perfectly, and Spark, wow, that's a really tough time to match here on Hanamura.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. And to me, when I look at that masterclass put on by Fleta, I think there's a few key moments to look at here. Number one is that on the attack, I think the Spark messed up terribly by not denying the resurrection. Like, Fleta died pretty deep inside the point. You don't let Fleta get back up. That's A. And then B, when Fleta is so on point B, that Fleta just turns, flicks, and takes out the Tracer with one rocket, it's not destined if you're the Spark. Like, it's gone. That's too many good occurrences happening for the Dragons in one go.
Yeah, definitely. And a different look on the sort of dive-esque strategy coming out here for the Spark. I imagine some swaps will come in. This looks pretty awkward. May, Tracer. So, okay, they're going to switch over to the Tracer, Genji. Try and punish these greedy backliners on the side of Shanghai. It's going to be an explosive matchup. Either the dive is going to snowball and kill absolutely everybody, or they're going to be completely stuffed for 4 minutes. Usually that's how it goes here. Hanzo's going to have his work cut out for him, though. Not the ideal DPS in this situation.
I feel like going back in time, but not so much, as Genji usually didn't get frozen by May and taken down back in the day. It was usually Tracer on the other end.
I think what makes this matchup so brutal is that if you can't find the opening pick on dive, it's incredibly difficult to farm ults. Otto is going to be looking at shields all game long, and he needs to get that Dragon Blade. If he can't find a Dragon Blade, he can't do his job, really. So maybe he's going to have that nano boost, but there won't be a Blade waiting for it unless some sort of huge pick comes out. And the rock onto Otto, he has to go get a pack.
Yeah, let's talk through Genji here. Genji also didn't get hit by rocks back in the day. The trials and tribulations of Amir Shimada here in Hanamura. Just trying to live his best life in 2020, Jake.
Yeah, all these divers experiencing a ton of pressure, but they are getting a bit more map control. Starting to close the surround here on Shanghai, but Shanghai staying aggressive, trying to poke out. If they can find just one pick, this surround could completely break apart.
Spark right now, I mean, they're playing a comp that has to be decisive on the dive, but they're just getting poked as they move on in. But now, might have an opportunity. Godspeed. Able to take down Fleta. Doesn't take a nice goal to the head. Now this is good for the Spark. They're able to move on over. Otto might be struggling to get things done, but Godspeed working on forward, has a chance here for Lip. Lip getting very low, taken down. Rhea able to finish it off. And the Spark not doing too bad here, Jake. Looking like they should be close to getting point A.
Yeah, this should be a point A take still. Both supports, both tanks alive here for the defense. They're going to make a play for it. Stand one, using the Fortify, throwing his body on the point. Trying to stifle the supports is Otto, and it looks like it's working with the help of those minefield from the Hammond. First point is captured.
Yeah. The Dragons, I kind of feel like staying in a little bit too long. I mean, yeah, you get a quicker respawn back at point B, so it's not the end of the world. But the Spark now working with Momentum, and, you know, clear to me here, Jake, Nanoblade, coming soon.
Yeah, it's all about the Nanoblade now. Izayaki does have the Transcendence, and Lee Jae-gon in the BAP, well, he can always have that Immortality field, which stops that one-shot combo potentially. It's possible for Adult to get a lot done here with the Nanoblade, you know, using that one-shot combo through Chance. You could even just one-shot the Tracer with just one swipe of the Nanoblade. But at the same time, it's a very tough test. It is far from easy to Nanoblade through a Trance, especially when there's an Orisa halting you around, a Sigma with the Rock. If Void gets his Gravitic Flux, he can also just completely counter the Nanoblade, so it's far from easy here for Otto. He's going to have to pull out something impressive.
Especially if Gushue falls before the fighting begins. They have to beat super early, but Izayaki's down.
No Trance.
Man advantage. This is really what they want to do there. They don't have to worry about the Transcendence. Self-destruct in from the Spark, but they're waiting so long. Bebe is down. Bebe doesn't even get the chance to Nano Auto, and now the opportunity is passed. Oh, tragedy for the Spark that started out so good for them, Jake.
Honestly, I'm really impressed by Izayaki there. The D.Va goes on him. Izayaki realizes he's isolated, but he doesn't lose his cool. He doesn't blow his trance. He actually lets himself fall, understands that, yes, it's not ideal. You don't want to die, but if he just trances for nothing there, Spark would just back out and then go Nano Blade, easy game. But Izayaki has the patience to recognize that if he trances there, that's a huge risk. So he actually holds it, lets himself die, and now he's back in the fight. And once again, Spark are in this tough position. Have to make a Nano Blade work, but no other ults to support it.
They also had to use beat to keep Bushui alive last time. Now, Auto, Nano Blade up. Moves forward, Transcendence in response, and this is going to be the end of the Blade. Auto forces the Transcendence, and they do get 2 pickoffs off the distraction. But now the Spark need more. Void, off on the side, takes down Bebe. He's going to deal with the sustain quite a bit. Spark are in a good spot, but they need just a little bit more, Jake, as Void is still unchecked.
1 tick for the Spark, but that might be all they get here. Void is looking very dangerous. Both healers down for the Spark, so no sustain available for these divers. And that's going to be the hold here for Shanghai. Going to switch things up, play a little bit more of a mobile composition. Imagine Void looking to switch over to the D.Va potentially. Nope, going to actually switch stand 1 back to the Orisa, and it's a full reset on comps. Both teams going to the full spam comp, but Fleta able to hang on to 75% on the Blizzard. That's going to be a huge deal. If he just gets this Blizzard up, next fight's going to be free for the defenders. And remember, Shanghai set an incredible time on their offense, so Spark, they're feeling the pressure now.
Yeah, the Spark already behind them are what they do, but with all these swaps, they've tanked their ult economy. Like, it is the opposite of money printer going burr. They're bankrupt at the moment, and it's going to take at least a fight to recover it. It's difficult time-wise. If they lose IDK immediately, they're not going to be able to get the Dragons to burn much.
Oh, this is devastating. I don't think the Dragons are going to use anything. I think the Dragons are just going to clean them up here. You know, getting that first pick, it's already 2 CP defense. You don't need to even get the first pick. You could lose the first 3 picks and just get 1 kill, and you'll probably still hold. So actually getting 1 kill on defense is pretty much fight over. Now sitting on a major ultimate advantage, what was a minor ult advantage. You know, the fact that Spark completely reset means they will be getting all their ults at a similar time. But the problem with that is that time might be after time has run out.
Yeah, it's just not an ideal situation for the Spark right now. The Dragons are holding all the cards, and at this point, you're just hoping for a miracle pickoff from Godsby or Bebe to just give them a favorable fight, but with a minute left, it's not ultra likely.
Yeah, Bebe has that trance, or close to it at least. He's going to need it to survive. The ult's coming to bear here for the Dragons. Spark, maybe they can take 2 fights, but already passing that 1 minute mark on the clock, and this is Hanamura. The fights go a long time, so this could be the final fight for Spark. They need to make it count. This looks very bad for the attackers.
Yeah, not exactly ideal is how I'm going to phrase this one. This is why you don't see teams go through the bottom a whole lot here in Hanamura. And the Spark, they just need to fall quickly and try again. You know, they got the flux out from the Dragons, but the Dragons still in such a powerful position here, Jake. What did the Spark do in the final 30 seconds where, by the way, at this point, no matter what, they're playing for a draw?
Yeah, and wouldn't that be painful, right? Another draw, still down 2-0 in this series, if they can accomplish that. And far from certain, given how offensive or how successful Shanghai's offense was. Now Spark, not much choice here. Pretty much going to have to run it down mid. You got 15 seconds left. No real way to go any other path. And you know, Shanghai are going to know this. They're going to be able to set up and give themselves an ideal location. I like this from Otto and Rhea do something a little bit fancy coming in from the off angle, but Lee Jae-gon already striking down Gushue.
Yeah, it comes out of call. Oh, goodbye. They go get to the point. Yeah, Gushue was the point man there, and he got eaten alive. The Dragons with the 3-0. I don't think you can call it a sweep given the draw. It's a little bit, you know, the technical terms get a little bit nuanced, but it's a 3-0 nonetheless. The Spark having a heartbreaking Numbani, and that's about it. Masterclass from the Dragons, though, especially there in Hanamura.
Yeah, I just love that moment from we're on Void's POV, and he's just Sigma ulting on a Blizzard on 6 attackers that are all in like a 1-player size choke. That was too much.
Yeah, Void, what more can you say? Just incredible play from top to bottom. But, you know, we're going to spread out the accolades a little bit because you want to talk about a player that came in here to this roster today and put on a good performance. It was Lip. Lip is our player of the match.
Yeah, I mean, he had huge plays, honestly. Lots of stuff on not only the Hanzo, but the Reaper, you know, succeeding on the Sombra as well, next to Fleta's Pharah. So, you know, that's pretty impressive to be doing that. I think this shows that Shanghai have exactly what they need out of this DPS roster. If you've got Fleta, who's kind of that all-around superstar, probably going to be seeing a ton of starting time from him. Lip seems to be most comfortable on these projectile heroes, but he's kind of filling this flex role, these heroes that don't really fit into a category. Unique heroes like Reaper, Sombra. Hangzhou is a little bit less unique, I think, than those other two heroes, but the fact that Lip can play those means that along with Diem, they have a very balanced roster here on the DPS lineup for Shanghai. So very impressive stuff. His God's Beast was starting to come alive, especially on Route 66, and it was Lip who actually turned that around, started shutting him down. So you got to give him props. He's definitely ready to hang.
Yeah, it was really just exciting to watch on all ends. And for the Dragons, I just have to look to their ability to turn the tide, right? Like, Nambani strikes out to me. We're okay. Nambani's a draw. Like, you could erase it from history and it doesn't matter. But you analyze what makes the Dragons so good right now is that they got completely wrecked. They got rolled over and stomped on that attack. And they just get back up and have one of the best holds we've seen on Nambani, with a 4-minute and 15-second time against them where they had to defend only 33%. That is the mark of a championship caliber team when you're able to come back from such a dire situation and go, all right, we're going to make a few adjustments and we're good.
It doesn't seem that pressure or mental defeat or crumbling, any of ththese things, it doesn't seem that they're issues for Shanghai. And what a turnaround for this franchise. Going from such a brutal season 1, struggling last season, and now, it's clear the upward trend, right? The redemption arc is reaching its peak. This could be their season. ZP, I feel like every game I watch from Shanghai, I'm more and more impressed, not only by the individual players on their roster, but the way they play as a unit, the way they play as a team. That's what Overwatch is all about, is working with your teammates to create those insurmountable advantages. And Shanghai do that time and time again.
Well, it's safe to say the Dragons have more than banished the demons from the inaugural season. They're a force here in the Overwatch League in 2020. But that's going to wrap it up for us here today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, with more great action from the Pacific region.